Young NBA studs who've already reached their ceiling. By young, I mean, let's say 27 years old or younger. And by stud, let's say guys who've been all-stars before and took the world by storm. But it seems like nowadays they've maxed out their potential. They aren't improving much anymore, and they've seen their numbers drop in recent years. I think it's safe to say that this is who they are. They might make some statistical improvements as the years go by, but in terms of expanding their game and filling out their weaknesses, I don't think they ever will. They've had years to adjust, but they haven't. Granted, I hope I'm wrong and they do get better, because I like a lot of these guys. It's just, the future isn't as bright as it used to be. Anyway, without further ado, let's get started. Number 6, Deangelo Russell. He's only been in the league since 2015, but it seems so much longer for some reason, probably because he got traded so many times. Russell played for 4 teams in his first 5 seasons, and it's not like he was bad. He performed super well in Brooklyn and Golden State, but not well enough for them to want to keep him. Coming into the NBA as the second pick and getting drafted to the Lakers, y'all know the expectations were sky high. He had some rough moments there. That whole incident with Nick Young, Coach Byron Scott, and Magic Johnson calling him immature. The Lakers hoped he'd be the leader of the franchise, but it was clear that he didn't have the right mentality. Over the years, he slowly matured and became a more consistent player. The 2018-19 season saw him make his first ever All-Star appearance, with averages of 21 and 7, as he led Brooklyn to the playoffs for the first time since that disastrous trade. It finally looked like he had a home, but nope. The Nets saw a chance to do something big, and sadly, Russell was a casualty. On the Wolves, it's been he isn't playing as well as he used to, even on a team like this, where he should flourish and blossom alongside their other young players. Russell hasn't shown any improvement since Brooklyn. His numbers and his efficiency have both regressed as well. He's taking an exorbitant amount of threes, over half his shots are threes now. Which is fine if you're Curry or Clay, but it's always a hit or miss for Russell. If his shot is off, his entire game is off. Number 5, Kristaps Porzingis. Another member of the 2015 class who peaked too early. Joining the team during the KarlAnthony saga, Porzingis had time to sit back and observe, and he learned a lot from him. When Melo was gone, he took the reins and exploded onto the scene. His 2017-18 campaign saw him average a career-high 22.7 points a game, a career-high in blocks as well with 2.4. Porzingis was such a unique player. He initially came in as a 3-and-D guy who can catch lobs, but over time, his game expanded. He found himself taking his opponents off the dribble, facing them up and posting them up and shooting over them. His entire scoring repertoire widened. However, even in his best year, he was still a work in progress, and over time, it was expected he'd keep on building his efficiency and shot selection. Then, the injury happened, at the peak of his career. And then, that entire nightmare saga started, with Porzingis rehabbing from a torn ACL, but also wanted to leave New York. According to former Knicks president Steve Mills, he said, "Porzingis point blank said to us, 'I don't want to be here. I'm not going to re-sign with the Knicks and I'm going to give you 7 days to trade me, or I'm going back to Europe.'" Yikes. A trade to Dallas saw his production dip, but that's mainly because it took a while for him to recover. Heck, he also suffered a torn meniscus, another setback. After performing horribly against the Clippers in the 2021 playoffs, he was, once again, on the hot seat. Porzingis expressed displeasure in his role, as he felt like he wasn't getting the ball enough. Overall, I think he's reached his peak already. Porzingis will never be a dominant one-on-one player, but he's good at playing his role, spacing the floor, finishing lobs, and defending the paint. In my opinion, he should stick to those things. He was never a first option type of guy. His personality nor his playstyle screams first option. But that's okay. Number 4, Ben Simmons. Of course, I gotta put Ben Simmons on every list that he belongs on. Actually, since his rookie season, his game hasn't improved much at all. Defensively though, perhaps it did. Simmons is a much better defender now than he was back in 2017. Just looking at the numbers, at face value, it seems like he's been regressing for a while, and I know everyone clowns him, but in reality, he's still a valuable commodity. In the 2020-21 season, Simmons had the 4th best individual defensive rating in the league, 106.1. He had the 5th best defensive RPM among all point guards, at 2.39, compared to just 0.11 in his rookie season, which was 45th among all point guards. So, by the metrics, his defense has gotten better, significantly better. Unfortunately, everyone focuses on the offensive aspect of his game. So, when it comes to shooting outside of 5 feet, he still can't do that. When it comes to his aggressiveness, it's still lacking. Regardless, even if he doesn't get any better, Simmons is still a solid player with everything else he provides. Number 3. Pascal Siakam. After Kawhi's departure, Siakam was the next in line. He already showed flashes of all-star potential beforehand, and now it's time for him to take over and carry the franchise. Well, that looked like the case for a short time. His first season as the man on the team, he averaged a career-high 23 points a game and led the Raptors to an incredible 53-19 record during the pandemic season. But he flubbed in the playoffs. Funny enough, when he underperforms, he doesn't get criticized as much compared to other stars, like Jayson Tatum, for example. Since then, while it was expected he'd keep building on that successful season, he hasn't gotten any better. Part of it has to do with his changing role. In fact, he took a back seat to Fred VanVleet and OG Anunoby. Siakam probably isn't 100% since he's been dealing with a major shoulder injury. Still, maybe he was never meant to be the guy. When he signed that 4-year, $140 million extension, everyone assumed he was going to be their main guy moving forward. He didn't handle the pressure well. Plus, the myriad of trade rumors hurt his confidence too. According to Siakam himself, he wasn't sure about being, quote, the man. Kyle was, to me, always the greatest Raptor of all time. I think he was always like, I was the guy. I had the contract, but I never really felt like I was the guy, to be honest. We'll see what happens in the future. He might not have to be the guy anymore. Number 2. Jayson Tatum. It might be a bit controversial to put Tatum here, but for the last few seasons, his game stagnated. I think we all realize that. Sure, he's still putting up a lot of points, he's learning to pass the ball and all that, but the bane of his existence has always been shot selection. Tatum is primarily a jump shooter, and he'll live and die by the shot. The thing is, earlier in his career, he drove the ball way more often. Percentage-wise, roughly 1/3 of his shots came at the basket. Now, less than 1/5. It was funny because I remember during the offseason there were tons of photos of Tatum bulking up, with the expectation of him playing closer to the basket, using his strength and length to abuse smaller defenders. Instead, he's taking even more stepbacks and contested jumpers now. Also, it seems like Tatum is complaining to the refs more than ever. To make matters worse, the Celtics are no longer the contenders they once were. I don't think they necessarily got worse as a team, it's just the rest of the East has caught up. They can't just win games with pure talent anymore. Their title chances depend on how Tatum performs. And so far, it's not looking so hot. And at number 1, KarlAnthony Towns. I made a whole video about him recently, and I'm willing to give Kat the benefit of the doubt. Over the last year, he went through a ton of tragedy. He lost 8 relatives to COVID, including his own mother, and when he contracted COVID himself, his body had trouble dealing with it. As a result, he lost over 50 pounds over the course of a few months. According to a report, KarlAnthony Towns lost 50 pounds after he contracted COVID-19. He thought about stepping away from the game and had the symptoms of a panic attack when he was first cleared to travel with the Timberwolves. In an interview during his recovery, he jokingly said, "I was as big as Deangelo Russell. I was as big as our guards. You think I'm gonna play center?" Yeah, when something as drastic as that happens, you can't expect him to play at full strength. However, even before that, he's been about the same for 3 or 4 years. We all know Kat is a dominant post-up player. He's an amazing three-point shooter, a great rebounder too. But has his defense gotten any better? I feel like we criticize his game for the exact same thing every year. And it's gonna keep happening until he shows some playoff success. He's only played in the playoffs once in 2018, and Cat struggled immensely against the Rockets' small ball. Due to his slow-paced, sluggish movement, any team that goes small has a field day against him. That hasn't changed. Anyway, that's all folks. Those were 6 young NBA studs who look like they've reached their peak. What are your thoughts? Do you agree or disagree with my list? Let me know in the comments. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope y'all enjoyed the video, and of course, as always, I'll see you next time. Peace.